In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Work Sucks and Then You Die Because Life is Too Short for Bad Jobs. I am one of your co-hosts, Tevi, and we have Katy here with us today as well. This is our intro episode, and we can't wait to dive into all the juicy topics that make work suck. Maybe less about the topics that make you die, but we're going to talk about a little bit about that as well. I'm the founder and CEO of our tech startup called DNA. That stands for Do Not Apply, which is a platform that is wiping out the resume for good because resumes also suck and we don't need to use resumes anymore. Katy, I'm going to toss it over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm Katy. I'm head of partnerships and talent at DNA. My background is recruitment and hiring both internally and externally for companies. So I have my fair share of experiences with, hiring, recruitment, interviewing, job search, all of those things that sometimes do make work suck for a lot of people. So DNA is, something that I'm super interested in because we're aiming to change the way that people hire and people look for jobs, and someone who's seen many examples of what not to do. I'm hoping that our platform can change the way that people approach those areas.
Yeah, I can't wait to dig into that a little bit more on why the resume is so outdated, how it makes work painful for people, especially working in HR, and also how it makes it painful for candidates looking for work. There's just such an opportunity for us to make the way that we approach work more effective and more efficient. And that's what we're really trying to do at DNA and make it a better experience for the candidates who are looking for those jobs and applying for those jobs, and actually make it a better experience for those companies that are looking to hire that talent and a faster experience because we know that experience can take quite a while. I want to share a little bit more about work, sex, and then you die. This is going to be your lifeline that you need when you feel like your job is sucking the soul right out of you. Let's face it, life is too short to be stuck in a bad job or with a bad boss. So, what Katy and I are going to do is we're going to dive deep into the trenches of terrible workplaces. If you have stories you want to share with us, we'll have an anonymous form. You can submit your stories. We'd love to share them on the podcast. We're going to talk about bad bosses, toxic cultures, soul crushing tasks. I don't think we talk about those soul crushing tasks enough, but it's not all doom and gloom. We're here to help you find ways to take back your time, your life, and your sanity and make work not suck and find work that doesn't suck. For you, we're going to talk about relatable horror stories. We're going to share expert insights. We're going to bring empowering strategies so you can learn how to set boundaries, navigate office politics, negotiate better conditions for a job, ultimately find work that doesn't make you want to scream. And then hear from other guests who have their own inspirational journeys of maybe coming from a place where work sucked. Maybe they died on the inside and realized they needed to figure out and do something a little bit different. And so we're going to be bringing episodes to you bi-weekly, your bi-weekly dose of commiseration, motivation, and actionable steps to escape the grind, escape the hustle. Katy and I are very anti-hustle. We're more like hustle when you need to, right, Katy?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But maybe Katy, tell us a little bit more about DNA and how we are on this mission to shred the resume for good.
Yeah, definitely. So DNA is a talent platform. It's a dual-sided marketplace for hiring and finding jobs. So companies can go on there and create a profile, candidates can go on there and create a profile. But what makes us different from the traditional job platforms, job boards, is that we take a resume free approach to finding people the right opportunities. So we don't utilize resumes, no cover letters, no applications. Candidates go onto DNA, they create their profile. Initially, we ask 5 quick questions just to get started. And once those are answered, your profile is created. From there, there's some additional information you fill out under 3 categories: who you are, what you know, and what you value. And based off of those categories. We ask all types of questions, like what type of skills you have, you know, what size of company are you looking to work at, what type of leadership styles work best for you. So kind of taking a more robust approach to finding you the right opportunities by, including details beyond just the job title. We have a proprietary algorithm that then uses that information and then matches you to the companies that are on DNA that are looking for people just like you. That algorithm then kind of gives you a rough assessment of how well you're a fit, both from a compatibility and standpoint, but also qualification standpoint to these companies. So you receive a percentage like scoring, set like let's say 83%. We also have a dashboard that shows you how well certain skills and attributes align with the company. Maybe there's like certain areas for improvement. Maybe there's, you know, a couple details that don't quite line up, like you're looking for remote work, they're hybrid. From there, you can take that information and assess whether or not you're interested in the opportunity based on your match. If you're interested, the company gets notified instantly. And then on the company end, they only see candidates that are qualified, compatible, and interested. So rather than going through hundreds of resumes or applications, they're seeing a short list of talent so that you are able to shine through in the application or non-application process, I should say. And that way their time to, assess applicants is reduced. They're able to, only see candidates that are interested and qualified and hopefully get an interview started right away through the platform, through our Calendly, Google, and Microsoft Teams integration for calendars.
Yeah, I love that. It's basically like taking the traditional pre-screening tasks that people would do and like throwing them all out the window and saying, we're smarter than this. We have technology that can solve this for us. Why don't we leverage technology in a way that makes sense so that we can stop wasting our time and money on these redundant processes that have been probably the same for, I don't know, years. Do you know how long it's been the same for, Katie?
Right. Probably longer than any of us would expect, but yeah, you're totally right. As a recruiter, you have what you call an info call with candidates that make it past the application process, and a lot of the profile questions that we ask at DNA cover a lot of those details that you would be looking to, find information on through that initial info call. Like, for example, the work environment. Are you okay with remote? If you if you're interested in this opportunity, why are you interested in this opportunity? You can see why it's an alignment for these candidates and how well their skills match up to what the company is looking for. A lot of that is assessed in that initial info call. So hopefully through this information that we're grabbing from people, we're able to eliminate one of the steps in the recruitment process and ultimately making it a less costly experience for companies as well with time and money.
Yeah, and I think just a better experience for candidates. I know we've heard from a lot of our user groups that the time they spend on like writing and rewriting their resume to customize it or using AI to do that for them now on their behalf is just their every single application takes a new resume or a new twist on their resume. Where essentially what we're doing here is we're reversing that. We're reverse engineering that. As an applicant, you typically apply to lots of jobs. So it's like you're one person and you're applying to many jobs. Where with DNA, you're going to build your profile and keep it updated, especially as you build new skills, because it's very skill centric and skills focused. And we'll talk a little bit about why skills based hiring is the way of the future and why it's important as well on the podcast. But what really happens is then you have all these opportunities coming to you. So it reduces the amount of effort required on the candidate side and the stress and the frustration and the emotions. Like, I think it can be in a very emotional experience for a lot of people, especially if, you're hearing from people that have applied for hundreds of jobs and haven't even heard back, but they don't even know if they're compatible with these companies. Now they're just becoming desperate and applying. And so it kind of removes that desperation from and that emotion from that process. And it really, like you said, allows companies just to get at it a little bit faster with spending less time on it, which means spending less money on it. DNA is really focused on tech talent as well. So we're focused on finding companies the best fit from a tech talent perspective. So any jobs that relate to tech or technology will be available on the platform. And yeah, as a company, you can go on there, you can build a free profile and you can get matched with candidates and see who you're matched with. It's We're very close to hard launch, which is really exciting, where there's gonna be, lots of features and continued features that are built out and pushed to the platform, especially as we hear more from our users, get that user feedback that we need, and really kind of build out this robust user experience so we can change the way that hiring takes place. Anything else you wanna add around kinda what we're doing at DNA and why you think it matters, Katie?
Yeah, I think to your point, a lot of people are experiencing, burnout when it comes to applying for jobs, and it's just like a such a disheartening experience. I mean, everyone at some point in their life has either been laid off or just frustrated with their current job and looking for something else. And I think no matter what your circumstances, when you get into this situation where you're applying for hundreds of jobs and never hearing back, never getting any feedback, and or even just applying to jobs just because you're desperate, and then you're like,
Mhm.
I don't even want this job and I still
Mhm.
can't.
I can't get it.
Yeah. Hopefully with, the way that we've made the user experience it for candidates and companies, we are providing an initial level of feedback with the dashboard and the rating system. So as a candidate, you can get a better sense of, maybe why you aren't getting interviews with a specific company. If you're coming up as a, 60% match, your certain skill sets are just not quite at the same level, or you're looking for an enterprise company and they're a
Mhm,
startup with less than 10 people, you can take that information as initial feedback for yourself of why you're not the right for the fit, and you can also choose to how you want to proceed going forward. Are those things that, some of the things that you've listed as values actually values when it comes down to it, finding, the right job? I know we're all entitled to, changing our minds when it comes to what we're looking for in our career. So
mhm.
hopefully, we're able to empower people to do so in their job search.
Yeah, and I love that because I think what it does too is it as a candidate, when you build a profile on DNA, it really forces you to self-reflect about maybe some of those things that you weren't thinking about when you would just, submit an application to a job online, and it's forcing you to not be in a job that sucks for you, because a job that might suck for me might not be a job that would suck for Katie. And so that's why the DNA part is really important. Not only does it stand for do not apply because we're trying to move away from application and resume based hiring, but it really comes down to this compatibility piece and matching the company DNA with the DNA of the individual to say this is a compatible match. You guys could potentially have a bright future together, right? You hear about these, matchmakers who match couples together and in the end they get married or whatever, right? And so we want to hear success stories like that. We want people to be happy in their jobs. We want them to feel compatible with their workplaces. We don't want them to be burnt out by the mundane tasks that they're getting asked to do because they didn't realize that that was part of the job. And just it's about providing more transparency around the company side and what you can expect on the company side to the candidates so the candidates know what they're signing up for. Because traditionally, what happens when you get hired into a new job, you get sold this bill of goods that may or may not be true. And we're trying to basically force transparency around some of that stuff with DNA so that it is actually a match. It's like getting catfished. It's like getting catfished on Tinder.
Well, I've been catfished a time or 2, You're like you're told certain things in the interview because, they want to have you on their team, or and they know that you're looking for certain things, and they make some false promises, or not even false, but, like, some maybe they're not gonna happen anytime soon, and you get in this position, you get excited because it's all these things that you're looking for, and then ultimately you're like 6 months in and you're like, "Okay, when is this happening?" Like, when is, like, my opportunity to grow or learn or, whatever the promise was gonna happen, and then you're just kinda stuck in a position where it's just like every other one that you had before, and that's why you left those positions.
Totally. We will share some wild stats as we go through more episodes of the podcast as well, but 64% of Americans have lied on their resume. So just think about that, and it's not to say that, you build a profile on DNA and it prevents you from lying completely, but it's actually just getting to the heart of what matters.
Yeah.
It's not you don't have to lie. You can be who you are. You can value what you value. We don't want you to form to the company. We want to make a compatible match between you and the company because that is real and authentic and makes sense, right?
But I think that's, like, the system that's been in place for so long of how people hire and apply has been set up in a way that I don't think intentionally has made it this way, but people are encouraged to lie or, like, fib or exaggerate because the ticket to get in front of a recruiter or a hiring manager is this piece of paper that
Yes.
people spend hours editing or, like, formatting. As a external recruiter, I, like, formatted some people's resumes for themselves to, like, help better present them. So, like, there's all this effort and energy and emphasis put on this resume that ultimately gets maybe 6 to 10 seconds of a look. So, if you're someone who, is applying to hundreds of jobs, that desperation eventually will kick in and you'll find
Mhm.
like, how do I get into the room with someone? Maybe if I exaggerate this or highlight this. I think that's just only human nature to try to, like, survive in a system that's not set
Built
up.
for you. Totally. I couldn't agree more. And the sad part is that is really like the start of the systems that weren't designed for you.
Mhm.
And I think that's the scary part and the part that people don't realize what burns them out over the long term is if you're applying for a job in a system that wasn't designed for you, so you have to manipulate yourself to fit into that system, and then the next step is to manipulate yourself to fit into this job, then you're not being true to yourself, you're not living your authentic life, and to me, burnout really comes into play when your values are the values you have on the inside aren't what you're living on the outside, and there's this, like, huge misalignment, and then you kind of feel stuck, right? And so, we're gonna help you avoid that. Not only are we gonna help you avoid that with this podcast and the stories that are gonna be shared, with DNA, with the platform itself that's really gonna help you avoid that, and this is the future of hiring. The future of hiring is transparent, it's about compatibility. If you think about the amount of time you spend at work versus the amount of time you spend with your partner, it's probably equal. So shouldn't we care about the things that we're compatible with when it comes to a company or a boss or a team or whatever that might be? Just as much as we care about the compatibility that we have when we're spending the other 50% of our time with our partner, like, we don't think about it that way.
No, and I would argue I spend more time at work than I see my
Yes.
partner. So, like, I think it's I mean, the whole, I think, idea behind why we chose, like, work sucks and then you die is because it's such a important part of your life, not because it's the most important, but because it's tied to your financial well-being, it's tied to, hours upon hours in your week, it's tied to your mental health, it's tied to your physical health, and, it's not it shouldn't be that you do something that's fine enough where you can just get through every day. I hope we can maybe empower people to look a little bit further and find work that actually, benefits them beyond just a paycheck, and hopefully they can find, environments where they can be authentically themselves and are encouraged to do so as well.
Yeah, I love that. I you're so right, and just with the amount of time that we spend at work, for me, what matters the most that I've realized over time is the people that I get to show up with every single day.
Right.
If I have to show up with people that I have conflict with or I don't get along with, or ultimately it comes down to our values just being completely misaligned, it's really hard to show up every day and work in that environment where you walk away thinking like, WTF, what is this person thinking every single day? And like, don't get me wrong, there's always going to be moments. I'm sure there's moments where Katie's like, what WTF, Tevi? What are we doing? What are you thinking? And that's normal. Like, we're not saying that none of that should be there ever. What we're saying is the good moments should outweigh the bad moments, just like in your relationships or your partnerships or whatever that looks like, right? Is that the good? My dad always used to say that to me. The good moments there has to be more good moments than bad moments. And the second the pendulum swings in the other direction, you really have to self reflect and think, okay, what's going on here, right? And I think for most people, the pendulum is actually on the other side. They're feeling that there's more bad moments than good moments and
Yeah.
asking themselves like, what am I doing and why am I here?
For sure. And I think sometimes it's hard because it's like much like not to make the same comparison, but like a toxic relationship of any sort, sometimes you don't realize how bad it is until you're out. And then you're like, oh my God, like, how did I put up with that behavior or how did I like get through that moment? Because I think that's the thing too with, jobs obviously tied to like money and career progression. There is so much I think that it's such a survival mentality to be in a bad position at work and just try to get through it for the sake of, being able to make your payments on your mortgage or whatever responsibilities you may have. So I think maybe too this podcast we can help maybe shine some light on the areas in your job that you may be ignoring just to get through it so that you don't wait till the end when you're fed up and burnt out and ready to, quit your job without having anything else lined up. I've been there and just have that moment of desperation where you're just will take anything just to get out of the situation that you're in.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I want to also chat a little bit about, and we'll get into this more in next episodes too. Like, what are the other options? Maybe you're more destined to be an entrepreneur or a founder, and what does that path look like? I think a lot of people have a lot of really great ideas and they could be founding companies, but maybe they actually don't know how to do that or they're scared to take that next step. And so it's not just necessarily about work, but what are your options? Maybe your DNA is more designed to be an entrepreneur. Maybe there's a big problem that you want to solve and you think you could find a way to solve it. And that's also can be very scary. And so I think from a founder's perspective, Katie and I can also shed some light on our own experience, kind of getting DNA off the ground. And as we continue to get it off the ground and, go into scaling it in the next few months, our own experiences, our own highs and lows with what that looks like for us, because we're in a bit of a unique situation where, Katie's part of the founding team. I'm the founder of the company, but we also both work here. And so, that's a bit of a unique situation as well. And has pros and cons and things that we're learning about. And I would love to bring, all those lessons to this platform as well.
Definitely.
Cool. Okay. Well, stay tuned, everybody. I'm already getting messages from people about sharing anonymous work stories that they would love to have us share on the platform. So please reach out. We will not share your name. We will not share your workplace. Whatever you don't want us to share, we won't share. But please feel free to reach out and share your horrible workplace stories with us. We can all have a laugh together and share some of them on the podcast. And stay tuned for lots of good information. Episodes are going to come out every 2 weeks on Tuesday mornings. Subscribe, like, and follow along so that you don't miss an episode. See you, everybody.